Well, today marks 4 years since the events of January 6, 2021. And the 4 years since, of course, liberals on Capitol Hill and the Mockingbird liberal media have gone to great lengths to paint the people who protested that day as racist, MAGA rednecks who wanted to topple their government. And, well, since then, of course, we've learned a lot about the truth on that day. Thousands of hours of video have emerged, of course. We now have the Inspector General's report that shows the FBI lied to the American people about what happened that day. One man who became the liberal example of that day was Jacob Chansley, who liberals, of course, called the QAnon shaman. The liberal media failed to explain his real story, that he was a U.S. veteran who became convinced that powerful government forces were destroying our democracy. It turns out Jacob was right all along. He perhaps is now more right than ever about what has been happening. And Jacob joins us now on this January 6, 2025. Jacob, great to see you. A lot has changed in the past 4 years since January 6, both in your life and in the nation as a whole. Let me start by asking you this, looking back now on this, how do you feel about your role in the events of that day? How has your perspective shifted in any way in these 4 years? Are you convinced now that there's no deep state at all? There's no deep state government forces at all?
Well, first of all, let me thank you and say it's an honor to be here. And I've never had such a wonderful introduction, so thank you. And my role on that day is interesting how it has evolved over time, where it started and what it's turned into. It started with the media using my image for their shock and awe campaign and to create the illusion that the violence that took place outside the building also somehow took place inside, even though it didn't, with the exception of, people like Ashley Babbitt dying. There was no real violence inside the building the way that there was outside. And that what happened outside was provoked. I think that Tucker Carlson having the courage to air the footage when he did on live television, knowing his audience, knowing that what it would do, that from what I understand or what I was told, when I was in prison, the January 6th narrative was unquestionable. It was concrete, solid. You could not, no politician would go anywhere near that topic, right? Because it was political suicide. But when he aired that footage, what I mean is that not the narrative itself was actually real. What I mean is that you could not question it in the media without it being political suicide.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Until Tucker Carlson aired that footage, then it fractured the narrative big time, because the face that they used and that they told everybody was so bad is now walking around with the police. And it's because I volunteered to help. So the actual narrative of that day is totally distorted now based on this evidence right here. And it was like the Achilles heel of the whole thing.
And to be specific, that footage, of course, that Tucker shows you being led into the Senate chambers by Capitol Police or uniformed police officers who not only opened the door with you, but then led you in. And then the footage shows you then praying for these police officers.
Yes. After I wrote a note, it's only a matter of time, justice is coming. Little did I know the government was not going to take that one in jest. I was not trying to give a threat or anything, but regardless, I said a prayer. I sang my shamanic song in the upper terrace of the Senate chamber. That's where everybody got the image, the headshot, where it looks like I'm screaming. No, dude, right. I'm singing. I'm singing in that moment, and I'm climaxing in the song. So there's that. And then I went into the chamber to stop vandalism, violence, and theft. That's what I volunteered to do when I talked to the cops. Said, hey, there's people in the Senate. You want I can help you clear the room, make sure there's no vandalism, violence, and theft. They're like, yeah, come on, let's go. Okay. So I get in there, write the note. It was just something I was like, whatever, But it turns out it was only a matter of time and justice was coming. I'm all for justice. I would never do anything physically to harm. Like I said, they didn't take that one in jest, but case in point, I said a prayer because I was invoking the name of God in the holy chamber. I was trying to turn the space sacred again, and I think I was successful in many ways.
You've spoken out about being misled You know, on our show, we talk about conspiracy theories all the time. We say that they're just 6-month spoiler alerts for what's to come. You've talked about being misled at different points, you know, in this 4 years, and you reflect on that. How do you feel like maybe you were misled, and what that means to you now?
Well, let's kind of blend that in with your other question about, is the deep state real? And has my opinion changed? Look, if I've learned anything from my time in the legal system and my image being used in the media, it's how distorted the public's perception of reality has actually become, of what's actually going on in government, what's actually going on in the public sphere, and what isn't being talked about, what is being talked about. And it's just reinforced my belief that we need very real reform, but not just political reform. Politics is downstream from culture. We need cultural reform. And when we start talking about things like what Yuri Bezmenov was talking about in the 80s, about demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization, the ideological subversion campaign of the globalist, the communist conspiracy that he talked about, then we really begin to see why it is that things have gotten where we're at now. We cannot understand where we are unless we understand how we got here. You know what I mean? So
right.
There is a very real deep state, and it's been here for a long time. It's the same deep state that capped Kennedy. And I hope that answers all those questions. Does that? I don't know.
It does. I mean, I know it's such a big question, and I love that you're wearing a triangular UFO shirt, because I think, you know, it's such a massive question from the activists who run our educational system, who it's not just one little piece. It's not just some deep state Nancy Pelosi involvement with the FBI, CIA, whatever. It's much larger than that. And it's been around for decades. It's going to be immensely difficult for an incoming Donald Trump administration to try to unpack all of this. So let's talk about accountability here.
Hold on. If I may, hold on a second. Because accountability and doing something about the problem are one and the same thing. Okay, if you look at what happened on January 6th, you look at the way that the J6 committee lied, the way that it involves Hollywood. If you look at all of this act, like the Ukrainian spy that was there, all of these federal agents, the CIA involvement, you know, the regime change elements, then this has deep state hallmarks all over it. And there's fingerprints all over this thing that actually tie to the much larger problem. Okay, and here's the thing. Similar to how the system was created to have checks and balances, right? And those checks and balances have been corrupted to warp the system, right? You can also place pressure, the public that is, in certain areas of the system to cause it to bend back into place. Do you understand what I'm saying? So You just have to know the areas that you have to go to. It's almost like, if you bring a big magnet, you can find 1,000,000 needles in 1,000,000 haystacks, no problem. Okay. Right. But if you're trying to sort through it with your fingers, you know, if you don't know what to look for, if you don't know where to go and what to do and how to use your leverage, then yeah, it's going to be hard. But dude, I mean, the Egyptians built the pyramids. You know what I'm saying? So we can do this.
So you think the incoming Trump administration has that giant magnet? Has the ability with Akash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and others who are coming into the intelligence community? They know where the needles are buried in the haystack?
Many of them do, yes. A lot of them don't fully know how many needles are buried there. And that's the beauty of the synergy of all of these people that have been maligned by the system getting together at once, because in many ways they're all experts in their field. And so they can all come together and know where to look and when, and who to look at. And that's just the beginning of the pulling of the thread of the sweater. But in many ways, like I said, a lot of them, there's a lot that they don't know each individually, but they have these silos that they're really, really intelligent and like fully informed in. Now, what we need to do is create like a round table horizontal apparatus with these really high level people so that everybody can make informed decisions, because everybody's field of expertise actually affects the other.
Since your release, you know, have you been able to move on? You know, I mean, 27 months in federal prison. Have you been able to move on from the events of January 6th? Do you still feel the weight of what happened? I mean, this has to be a pretty heady day for you on this January 6th.
If you hold on to resentment or anger or depression or whatever, regret, then yeah, days like this would be heavy. I don't hold on to any of that stuff. It's not healthy. It's not spiritual. It's not good spiritual hygiene to hold on to that stuff. Okay. So what I've done is I look at it like this. I used the time that I was in prison to become a better man. And I don't know about you, when you go through hard things in life and you come out a better man, you don't really look back on those hardships with disdain because you're a better man. Right. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? You learn the lesson and now you're stronger for it. I once heard the saying that, nothing is stronger than a repaired broken spirit or something like that, or a healed broken heart or something like that. So was my heart broken by the government's persecution of me and the media's persecution? Absolutely. But what that made me was anti-fragile, as David Goggins likes to say, where right. all that time and pressure turned me into like a super diamond. And now, dude, I'm just going to let my light shine,
Right. We're put here on this earth, right, to experience discomfort, and we only grow through discomfort. Put yourself in difficult situations. So when you look at it now, are you more hopeful? I mean, look back 4 years ago, it was a pretty dark day for the United States of America. What the deep state was doing to us, the federal involvement, the FBI involvement, all of the pieces of this really make us. It almost doesn't sound like a democracy at all. It doesn't sound like the United States of America at all. Are you more hopeful today than you were 4 years ago?
Well, first of all, let's get something straight. Republicans or Democrats in charge over the last several decades, neither one of them have been obedient to the Constitution. Neither one of them are running the government the way the founding fathers would. Let's start there. Am I hopeful? Yes, absolutely. More hopeful now than I ever have been, because since 2008, I have been essentially trying to be working to be a spiritual activist, trying to get people to wake up to certain technologies or certain spiritual truths about our connection to the environment. I'll just give you an example. We're talking about gravitic propulsion engines and stuff, like zero-point energy engines and gravitic propulsion or anti-gravity or inertia propulsion. We're talking about that in the common sphere. I went to AmFest this year, and they were talking. Some dude on their stage at AmFest was talking about grounding. Okay,
right. Can you believe
and the
that?
Ionization
which is like. Taking off your shoes and standing in the grass. It is a renaissance. My wife and I have just been talking about this, how some of the granola stuff that used to be mocked by Republicans about liberals are now, raw milk, right? Local farming, grounding, just like standing in your own backyard in bare feet. These are conservative values at the heart of it, right? And we don't want processed food. We don't want chemicals in our food system. We don't want fluoride, damaging the neurology of our children in our drinking water. These are conservative values. And you're right. I think we are seeing this revolution. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm excited about it. No. But they're
not. This is, I think, part of the issue that people have in this country, in particular Republicans and quote unquote conservatives, or even especially Christians. Okay, is this thing about labeling people. These are not conservative values. These are American, these are human values of we don't want poison in our food. We don't want right. poison in our water. We don't want poison being sprayed in our air. We don't want the government controlling our weather. We don't want injections that are going to alter our DNA and rewrite our genetic code. We don't want to be locked into our homes. These are reasonable things. And this is right. why the founding fathers wrote the Declaration, why they all signed the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson wrote, because look at the list of grievances that Thomas Jefferson gave, and then parallel that with the last 120 or so years. Okay, and then ask yourself, is there anything that seems to parallel here?
No, it's a great point, and I love your point. These aren't conservative values; they are American values at the heart of it. And we've been so pigeonholed by these labels over the past couple hundred years. I mean, going back to before the Civil War. Jacob, any kind of final thoughts today? As you reflect on this January 6th and what you want Americans to know going into this new year?
The future's bright, but it will have its obstacles. These obstacles are designed to help us grow, not so much obstruct our growth. Okay? As individuals and as a collective, the hurdles are up. Okay? And that's a good thing. The old systems are falling away, that we are entering a new age, a new pattern of human civilization is emerging. Okay? And that's a good thing. That means that we're not going to be dominated by the old ways anymore. But what that also means is that you're going to have to step up. What that also means is you're going to have to expand your consciousness. You're going to have to stretch your imagination to new dimensions. And that is going to require some level of cognitive dissonance at some time. So learn to get comfortable with that. And learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because like what you were saying, that's the only way we evolve, okay, is social and environmental pressure. So this is the final point that I want to make, okay, because considering the shirt that I'm wearing, okay, if you look into human history, when we make evolutionary leaps as a species, a lot of the time it's actually because of either a self-selected individual or group of individuals that get together in the presence of tremendous social or environmental pressure. And these individuals or individual create a new tool, a new mental model, or a new form of behavior that allows them to circumvent the social and environmental pressure and not just survive, but thrive. Then in the presence of this social and environmental pressure and this person or this group is thriving, the tribe sees, right? And they go, hey, what are you doing, man? How are you doing that, right? And they tell them, they communicate, right? And they change the dialogue in the tribe. They give them the new mental model. The new mental model is assimilated, or they show them the new tool or how to make it. That's assimilated, or the new form of behavior is assimilated, right? And then the whole tribe gets to circumvent the social and environmental pressure. And then it's no longer a big deal, right? Now, what we are going through right now is a very similar evolutionary change, all right? And we have literally millions of, if not billions, considering the origins of the universe, we have billions of years of evolution that this process is unfolding, like all that momentum. Nothing can stop what's coming. The question is, what shape or form does that evolutionary process take, and how long does it take? So the new tools are the zero-point energy engines that, what's his name, Salvador Pais, the Pais patents, the 3 patents, the zero-point energy engine, the room temperature superconductor, and the gravitational wave generator, or the anti-gravity inertial propulsion craft, okay? Those 3, along with the Tesla towers, that Tesla coils, from over 100 years ago, infinite free clean wireless electricity, okay? And then things like medical cures, Dr. Reif's machine, the understanding of these technologies and how they work. In order to understand how they work, you need to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So what that means is that as we start to allow this technology to come to the market, we begin to understand the secrets of the universe. The spiritual evolution of humanity is then paralleled by the technological evolution. And that's the only way that we can do this and work with these amounts of energy without destroying ourselves. So we have to spiritually evolve and technologically evolve, and that will end up having an impact on our political, our economic, and our social systems. And we also have to incorporate other cultural elements to the formation of our culture around this technology. Otherwise, it's going to warp the minds of future generations, similar to the way that unfettered access to modern technology has warped the minds of modern generations now, right? So we have to take that into our cultural model as we move forward with these technologies. So this is the new mental model, right? Is the energy, frequency, and vibration, and understanding. The new technologies are the things that I've listed: TR3B, zero-point energy, room temperature superconductor, Tesla towers, Dr. Reif's machine. And then lastly, the new form of behavior is nonviolence, nonviolent non-cooperation with tyranny. No need for war, just total non-compliance. You vote with your money, you vote with your time, you vote with your attention. And that is the awakening of the individual and the masses to who is really in power. Because it puts it literally right back in our hands. Literally, it puts the power, literal power, right back in our hands, both spiritually, technologically, politically, socially, etc.
Wow. I think it's a brave new world. Hopefully we can wrap our brains around what's coming, because I agree with you on many of these points, Jacob. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here on this January 6th. It's been a crazy couple of years for you, but I'm happy to hear that you're doing well, and things are moving in the right direction in this country, I hope. Jacob, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Namaste.